Welcome then. Thank you very much for your interest, really, and your time. I'm a little distracted because I keep admitting people in the chat, but I think we should really start. It's a great, good habit, I think, and sometimes I forget, to be honest, but it's great to start just with a moment to remember, set up our motivation and intention. And I will say from this session, but also in general, like what are we doing with our lives? Why do we want to learn these topics? How are we using our time, energy, attention? Nowadays, our attention is almost like a currency. What kind of things you give your attention, your focus to? Social media competes for it. So maybe just take a few moments to ask yourself, why am I here? What am I doing here?
I thought this was Starbucks.
Yeah. Like, oh, excuse me.
Yeah, I'm in
See
the
you,
wrong
see you
place.
later. Yeah. So I'm gonna do that maybe just for 30 seconds. And then bring to your mind whatever your best understanding of emptiness and how reality works. And get this trust in your heart that understanding reality is like the greatest form of protection there is. It's refuge. And how you can use that to make your world and reality into the most beautiful world where you and everybody else are completely happy, completely shiny, successful, big open hearts, and offer that perfect world. So may these sessions help one way or the other to accomplish that.
Hmm.
So thank you so much, translators. Thank you so much, recording people. We're gonna start today with general review on Pramana and also a quick general review on the first topic of the book, A Door to Emptiness. Remember the red book? I have it here again. Let me show it to you for those who may not have seen it. Right now, this is the book. Adam and Geshe translated this book. It's invisible, as you can see. It's a very cool book. Well, I don't know. Yeah, there you go, something like that. A Door to Emptiness, the very first topic that addresses, it's in a debate form, and today we're gonna review the first debate. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen because I want to show you a PPT that I have. Actually, this PPT Adam and I used during our sessions of the G-Box in Japan, but I really thought it can be a great review on what are we doing here today. So I'll start my screen sharing. Cool, right? Okay, so when we started this topic, Geshe really encouraged Adam and I to talk with the audience about why red and white, or a debate on red and white colors. It's the very first opening topic on the Pramana book, Opening a Door to Emptiness. What I find very interesting about it is that, you know, in a way, Geshe is setting us up for always, since the very beginning, he's setting us up for advanced practices. And many of you, maybe you hear this from older students. I do often. Check if this is familiar for you. You go to a class with Geshe Michael, and then after class, you hear older students saying like, "Oh my God, Geshe Michael is teaching us already Diamond Way. He's so skillful. He's setting us up for advanced practices." Sometimes, as a new student, like, I don't know, like, why? What are they talking about? And then years pass, and then you realize what he was doing since the very beginning. It's like everything matches or everything fits, everything. It's like a puzzle that you start from the left and then later from the right, and then in the middle they connect or something. So in a way, what I think he's doing, I think he's setting us up to always have this mindset that allow us to see the extraordinary in the world. Like, this is not just a random red and white topic. This is not only a topic that was meant for kids, but there is like a magical reason. There is a deeper reason why this topic is like that. And it's like a form of a yoga, a practice, when we start seeing the world as extraordinary. It's not only boring, straightforward, obvious reasons all the time, but sometimes there are hidden magical reasons. Sometimes it's called this divine display. And I think Geshe La is training our minds to always be looking for this magic in our world. So let's talk about it. Why red and white? And we're going to give a few different possible reasons. In the last Five Houses event where we were encouraged, interestingly, we were encouraged not to think like, oh, this person may be like an angel, right? Like this idea of being suspicious of people. But it's not only that we are supposed to be suspicious that they are, but this time the practice was kind of focused on we should be honest that we don't know if they are, but we also don't know if they are not, which is interesting because it put us in a place of potential possibilities. In a way, I think that's the place of emptiness, right? And why is this connected to emptiness, you may wonder? Because they say every object in the universe has emptiness, right? So in a way, we are interacting with emptiness all the time. It's as if we were surrounded or swimming in a sea, in an ocean of emptiness. Emptiness is all around us all the time. Like whatever, look at the computer in front of you, it has emptiness. So in a way, like you may be in front of emptiness, around emptiness, under emptiness, above emptiness, all the time, surrounded 100%. The computer, the room you are into, your own body, the movie that you tell yourself you are living or experiencing right now, meaning the situation, this session, everything has emptiness, but we are not yet capable, at least I speak for myself, I am not yet capable of realizing that directly yet, but it's everywhere all the time. There has not been a single moment of our existence when we are not surrounded by emptiness. We need to realize that. So, what is one of the most totally common objects, or objects I will say that we see around? Colors, right? Like in the Pramana topics that they say like among the 5 hips, form, it's the one who we spend like 80% of our time interacting with, or like our mind attention focus the most. And they say among the form, the visible aspect of it, it's also the predominant object of our attention. We as humans tend to focus a lot on visual things. I don't know about that, but I hear or I read that, for example, for dogs, the predominant sense is smell. It's just an example that different ways of existing or different beings may have like a totally different reality. Even the predominant sense may be different. Mm-hmm. But in our case, human, sight, visible form. So, because it's so predominant, it's a perfect example that we are all the time perceiving colors. Colors and shapes, they say. Colors are everywhere. Everywhere can be an example for emptiness. Everywhere as well. It's all around us. So if we can prove ourselves that colors, even colors, sometimes considered raw data, are empty, then it's like a super short step to admit ourselves that everything is empty and that we have been surrounded by emptiness all the time. And as Adam has pointed before in the past, there is a big difference between kind of accepting these ideas because they kind of make sense versus deeply realizing, like a direct experience, a direct personal experience of these truths. And that's what we are trying to do, all of us as practitioners and our students. The difference between, oh yeah, it makes sense that my computer is empty. Oh, it makes sense that, well, maybe even colors are empty, versus a deep, profound certainty or realization that it is that way. And through the study of these topics, something is going to unblock in our minds. And at some point, like, this certainty is going to become a living realization in our hearts and in our minds. Okay, so what else? What else is going on here? This is what I was telling you about. I think personally, and Geshe talked with us about it, this topic is also opening a portal to a magic world. We were talking about that it's very suspicious that the colors chosen were specifically red and white. Yeah. And then this question came up, like, could it have been, for example, blue and yellow? Could it have been gray and green? Whatever other colors. And honestly, I don't know. But again, we are encouraged to see the magic and the hidden messages in our world all over around. And interesting suspicious, we talk about it as well. In the most advanced teachings, the colors red and white have a very deep, profound, and important meaning. So it's like a possible, like, little subtle voice kind of shouting from far, like, hey, the world is magical. You know, like, hey, keep going. There is more you don't know yet. Then I was thinking about this as well, like in what other forms this topic of, you know, we're studying red and white, but one of the first points it makes is the topic of contradictions. So how is that contradiction something that may sound kind of boring and almost like a little feisty, like something that wants to fight, like contradiction? You're gonna talk to me about contradictions? How can that be opening my heart and opening my mind for magic and for, you know, like a beautiful, perfect life? How contradictions is going to help me to do that, right? So then, check this out. This is my picture for contradictions. Um, I think we were talking about that the other time. One of the biggest contradictions in the world is this. Okay, let's take the example. It is say, if something is red, it cannot be white at the same time, right?
And entirely.
Entirely. I like it because I was about to say, remember, every word on a statement, especially into the debate, super important. So thank you, Adam, so much, because that makes the point. To say entirely is super relevant and meaningful. Either you say it or you didn't, it's going to change the course of the debate. So no object can be totally or entirely white and or entirely red at the same time. There is more to add, but for now, we're going to leave it like that. So check this out. Big contradiction. I will say no object can be completely, I don't know, I'm grabbing this because I don't see a pen. I have a pen. Wait. So no object can be coming at me and coming from me at the same time. Either it comes from me or comes at me. So it's like a contradiction. When you get upset with the person who is yelling at you, there is only two options. It's either coming from you or it's coming at you. Contradiction, and they cannot coexist at the same time. Even the way you are, not only the way they really exist, but the way you are taking them to exist. So one thing is the real way, one thing is the way they exist, but another way, another thing is the way you are perceiving them. Because they could be existing coming from you, and you could be perceiving them coming at you. You see, that's not a contradiction. It's a confusion, a misunderstanding, but not a contradiction. But the contradiction will be if the way they are existing is not, you see the difference between your belief and the way they exist. And what we're trying to do is to make them the same. The way they exist is, they say, is coming from me, and we want our belief and our perception eventually to also be able to apprehend that reality and match. Okay, so there is this contradiction between either they are coming from me or they are coming at me. We live our lives mostly as humans, thinking, believing things come at us. So at the very moment, by studying these topics, that we start canceling or fighting against this belief, we are already fighting with our normal, mistaken way of perceiving reality. In a way that's opening the door for unconventional, magical, super special way of seeing reality, which is already coming from me. Because coming from me opens up the possibility, the endless possibilities of fixing reality, of manipulating the things that we don't like, that are hurting us or are hurting others. So realizing that the fact that we are working to shift the way we perceive the function of reality, the mechanism of reality, is already taking us to a very magical world. Sometimes emptiness is called the diamond world. And then I like to think that diamond world could involve two aspects as well. Like you see how they say seeds and emptiness, karma and emptiness are two sides of the same coin. Like depending on origination and emptiness, they need to coexist. They are always together in one object, for example. Like whatever, again, the pen has its emptiness, and the pen also has its existence through dependent origination. So I'm thinking that this diamond world is this world of emptiness. And I will say that it also involves its deep understanding that we are living in a world made out of light, of mental pictures or images. Mm-hmm. And imagine how it will be living in this world, like when you kind of start realizing that in a way, not the same is, I'm not saying we are already enlightened and we just have to realize. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that in a way we are already living in a world made out of light, because it's made out of mental pictures. That they, of course, they function and they seem so solid and they perform, they operate in a certain way, but only because our karma and our seeds are forcing us to be that way. So this topic of contradictions is also opening the door to realize that one of the biggest contradictions, if not the biggest, I will say, in our lives is where the world is coming from and where do we believe our world to come from. So then another reason, I use this picture in Japan as well. Another picture, another idea on why we study these topics is so we understand that there are infinite ways of seeing the world. There are infinite ways of living our lives. Probably in English, you guys have this saying. Well, at least in Spanish, we have this saying. It's like every head, it's a whole world. In Spanish, we say cada cabeza es un mundo. Meaning every person, it's its own world kind of thing. So then there is no need to argue and fight and get upset when somebody says, I don't know, the Italian restaurant is the best. And you're, no, how can you say that? You are so stupid. It's obvious that the Japanese restaurant is the best. And of course, this is a simple example, but take it to deeper and more subtle things, like sometimes political systems. Some people argue, no, Democrat, or maybe I shouldn't be talking about that. But you know the point, like, I mean, and honestly, sometimes religions or political systems or just likes and dislikes. Here, I was just saying this example, like, oh, some people will say like the most beautiful, best instrument is guitar. Some others may say, no, it's drums. Surfing is the greatest, most opening heart sport in the world. No, it's skiing and stuff like that, So really it's about, we develop by understanding emptiness, we develop big tolerance. And to be honest, I have seen it in myself. Before I used to argue much more if someone will say something that I don't agree. And then I will wonder and question myself and get, inner conflict. And then sometimes I understand, like, okay, fine. There is no problem. For them, it's like that. There is no big deal. No need to fight and argue. You let it go a little bit and get room for understanding, for love, for fun, which interestingly are all emotions that run into the central channel. It's interesting, no? The kind of emotions we can have when our heart is open versus the kind of emotions we have when our heart is closed and tense. I like very much, and in the future, I'll try to talk more about it, how these perceptual logic topics are so deeply connected with a much more like mystic, magical topics of yoga, of Pramana, and how our lung sem yukpa chikpa, where our attention goes, our energy flows, and how using this both, for example, our mind to focus or apprehend objects, it's very connected with the way our inner winds and move and influence our channels. And we can do the other way around as well by doing some different practices, asana, for example, meditation, other things. We can also influence our winds and channels and therefore later influence our perception. And remember, both the goal of yoga, actually, that's one of the lines of the Yoga Sutra, but also the goal of Pramana and the goal of Dharma practice in general is to stop how the mind twists things around, making our perceptions, making our pramanas right. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the definitions of an totally enlightened being is like a person who has become right, or in the sense that has made their perceptions totally accurate. Mm-hmm. So it's one of the aspects of the goal we want to achieve, right? Of course, it also involves like, the four kayas, I will say. Yeah. But we'll talk about that later. So far we have seen a few goals why we're studying these topics, making us aware that we are always surrounded by emptiness, deep realization that it's the case, everything around us is empty. It's in different ways opening our minds and availability to live in a much more magical and beautiful place. It starts allowing us to be more loving, mm-hmm. patient, kind, wise, understanding, stuff like that. Okay, I think I only have a few more minutes to go. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, so this is another one that I like. I think it's very funny, but check and you only tell yourself if you think it actually makes sense or not. So after we see that everybody sees the world different, right? And some people like the guitar and some people like the drums and stuff. Another benefit, once we understand everybody sees the world different, is that if ever, for whatever reason, we encounter a crazy person that their projection or their seeds are so lousy that they don't like us back, don't worry. Just feel compassion for them, because it's not you. It's just that they don't have the good seeds to see you in the way that you really are. Yeah. I'm half joking, but think about it. Okay? All right. So I guess I only have one more minute. So I'm going to leave it almost here. I'm just going to say, and then I feel bad, to be honest, because I told you we were going to do the first debate and I really was planning on it. And I guess I haven't become yet good with time management. Yesterday, I was doing a teacher training for 5 houses level 8. And yesterday I had the same problem. I was supposed to cover more material. I wanted to, but the time ate upon me. Okay, but at least I hope this is good. And of course, it's how to say, it's on the promised shelf. We're gonna do the debate number one for sure. Sometime. I'm gonna leave you with this. Remember that the etymologics of Pramana is the Sanskrit, Sema is the Tibetan, the West Chinese. It comes from the pra, that is like a cognate, for example, of forward, or in the boat, in a ship, in a boat, like when they say proa or proactive, or things that have the pro come from pra, which means forward. And ma, it comes from measure. For example, measure in the English word, it's also come from this Sanskrit root ma. So Pramana means the thing to be measured forward, but in the sense like the thing to be measured correctly in a good way. So what we are trying to develop is this tool in our minds to be able to assert reality in a correct way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave you here, and I'm gonna let the podium to Adam Andrade. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much. Hope these topics give you clarity on why we are trying to do these sessions, and that we are all are able to accomplish these goals. So I'll stop my screen. And then I'm gonna spotlight, or who's doing the spotlights?
Okay.
Cool. All right, it's on you, Adam.
Okay. Hold on one second. What are you guys seeing right now? Are you seeing the slideshow? No, I just stopped here. Okay. Uh, okay,
Yeah,
can you see it now?
we see the slideshow, but it's not in a presentation form. It's
Yeah.
more into a. Well, I think
Is this good?
I think it's good. I don't know if we are looking at. Yeah. I think it's
Okay. All right. So I had a series of lecture notes, and for some reason, the PowerPoint is actually showing. Hold on one second.
excellent.
Yeah, okay. Maybe this will be better. And for some reason, my slideshow is actually being shown on my external monitor too. So I can actually see my lecture notes. So you'll have to bear with me here. Um, so there were a few things. First, I kind of wanted to address Kadran. Sorry for speaking so fast and not taking pauses. So I'm really going to try hard to speak slowly for you guys and with pauses. Um, so why do you guys think I have this image here on the first slide? Does anybody have any ideas? Nobody from the audience. Okay. It's like a game show. Okay, so think about my second book. Does anybody remember the name? Okay. Yeah. So the short title is called Mooncell. Okay. And Mooncell means to clear the darkness, right? And Geshe Michael has talked about Mumpa being like dark clouds in the mind, right? That you have some dark clouds that kind of block your ability to think clearly. And the reason I chose this image here was because this book, right, my second book, is going to be like your rocket to break through these clouds. Okay. So I want you to also know that this course is going to be going on indefinitely. Okay. I don't have a potential endpoint. I'm hoping that these classes will go on for years. Okay. So this is the first class. And also, once again, I'm asking you guys to be very patient with me because I did not sleep well last night. and I'm not thinking clearly at the moment. Um, so, okay, the first class, we're going to focus on why you study logic. Okay, what is its purpose in our path? Okay, if we're going to talk about, or if we're going to commit ourselves to studying anything for something, if we're going to study something for years, I think it's very helpful to understand from the very first class why you study it. Okay. So the reason I chose this image here, some of you may know. If not, we're not gonna talk about it deeply. But this is the Lord of Death. Okay. And what you're using logic to understand is how your actions on a day-to-day basis are are propelling you, are bringing you closer to the Lord of Death. Okay. So before we move into it, and like last class, I was telling you guys that I'm hoping that along the way, we can push each other. Okay. That I'm going to require and ask things of you that maybe Geshe Michael has not asked of you. So I'm going to ask you to learn new terms. I'm going to ask you to step into a more academic way of thinking about these things. As much as I can, I'm going to find a way to use everyday language. And when it comes up, I'm going to ask you to learn new terms that are more academic. Okay. These aren't waiter terms, right? So Geshe Michael has said that when you're translating, he has asked the translators to only use words that you would expect a waiter to understand. Um, However, I'm thinking that you guys are all very, very capable considering how long you've studied with Geshe Michael. And I think you're all very bright and I think you can understand these things. So from class to class, we're going to learn new words that we can utilize to understand this philosophy. Okay, because that's what we're studying here is philosophy. Okay, so the first term is epistemology. Okay, it's the study of how we know things. Okay, so how do we know that something is knowledge? Okay, and what isn't knowledge, right? And how to tell the difference between those two things. So within epistemology, this is what Master Dharmakirti is all about. Okay. From now on, when you think about Master Dharmakirti, you can think about epistemology. Okay. That was what he was, that's what his 7 books were all about, right? Is the theory of knowledge. How do you know things and how do you know what is true? Okay. The second word here, soteriology. Okay. What you can think of when you think of soteriology is the path to liberation. Okay. So within any other tradition, right, we have our tradition that goes all the way back to Lord Buddha, right? But there are many other traditions, right? When you think about Christianity, right? Each path, each particular lineage has its own path towards heaven. Okay. So soteriology is how we get free from suffering. It's the tools that we use in order to reach the goal. Okay. So as you move forward, you're going to hear these words. Okay. And I'm going to try to limit them until everybody gets used to them. Okay. And as much as I could, I tried to make everything into everyday language. I tried to only use everyday language here. Um, so we can think about it this way. Epistemology is about knowing. Okay. And soteriology is about how do we end our suffering and how do we reach nirvana? How do we reach liberation? How do we reach total enlightenment? Okay. So now that we have those terms, okay, why is epistemology important in our lineage? Okay. And what you need to understand is I'm going to lay out to you why the only thing that will bring you to ultimate enlightenment, to complete enlightenment, is understanding truth. Okay. And how do you arrive at truth? Okay. So you can kind of think of it this way, right? If we're okay, how would I put this? All of our suffering is arising from the fact that we do not see reality correctly, right? Yeah. So we have a certain understanding of the world, but that understanding is incorrect, right? So if I say everyone has to reach enlightenment and everyone must go through a series of five paths, right? It's true, yeah? Okay, so if the first path is only reached by understanding suffering, right? And that the only way to reach enlightenment is through understanding how the world is a suffering place. And you want to turn off that suffering like a water faucet, okay? And you just wanted to shut it off. Yeah. So if I if I ask you if I ask you understanding everything that we've been taught by Geshe Michael, um, what would be the first truth that you need to understand in order to begin to practice this path towards enlightenment? I'm hoping people will chime in here.
To understand suffering.
Yeah, totally. Okay. But when you say understand suffering, right, it goes beyond just thinking, you know what, I'm suffering today, right? Like it's one thing to notice if you break your foot, okay? That's a form of suffering, right? But what further do you need to understand? Well, you need to understand where it's coming from, right? And this is what we're going to get into. Yeah. So you're definitely right. Yeah. In order to begin to practice this path, you have to first understand that you're going to die, okay? And then you have to understand how you need to think about using your day in order to reach the goal, right? Before you die. The reason that I'm struggling here is because this is something that I feel like everybody knows, but I think there's a deeper, I think there's a deeper understanding that needs to be brought to exactly how the study of logic is essential to practicing the path. Okay. It is you will not and cannot progress, okay, along the path without some form of logic in your practice. So now that that's out of the way, okay, the thing is I'm hoping to actually push you guys a little bit, and I want to present things that I feel like Geshe Michael has not taught before. And I want to make sure that you're not bored. Okay. So, what we're going to do moving forward, okay, today is going to be another semi orientation class, just so you can find yourself um, ready to really dig in next week. Okay. Hopefully, I'll have more sleep and I'll be a little bit more on point. So, um, so the first thing, okay, that we're going to think about is the difference between Dharmakirti and epistemology, the theory of knowledge, okay, and in the Indian tradition and in the Tibetan tradition, okay. So these are so what you need to understand, okay, is Master Dharmakirti was essentially refuting or debating with different logic schools of his time in India. Okay, when we first started studying and translating my second book, one of the first things that come up is the is was the word nyaya. Okay, and nyaya means logic, and it refers to an old Indian school. Okay, the nyayas were a logic school within ancient India, and Master Dharmakirti wrote his book to respond to some of the things that they were saying. Now, what's interesting is that Master Dharmakirti agreed with them on many topics. He actually agreed with them. Okay. There were certain things that he felt like he needed to clear up, though. Okay. So we're going to really dive into this next week, and we're going to go into why why would you study other traditions? Okay. Why would you study the Nyaya? Well, I ask you a question. Do you think Master Dharmakirti studied the Nyaya school? Yeah, I think you can say he had to. In order to refute them, he had to thoroughly understand their positions. Okay. So we're going to look at those ancient agreements between Master Dharmakirti and the Nyaya school, and we're going to look at where they disagreed. Okay. So you have to understand here that Master Dharmakirti, as he wrote his seven, sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. That's the thing. I feel like I'm trying to be so aware of it that I can't, that I'm not speaking as fluidly as I used to. I'll get used to it though, I promise. Um, so you have two different streams here, okay? You have the Nyaya school and the Mimamsas, okay? You have ancient Indian beliefs, schools of belief. And then you have Master Dharmakirti commenting upon those things, okay? Common ideas of ancient India. Now, Master Dharmakirti, as he was brought into the Tibetan tradition, okay, became a different stream almost, okay? Because what you have, I'll ask you, how many of you heard Geshe Michael say, you can't understand the books as they were originally written? Yeah. The source texts are almost impenetrable. Okay. You can't enter them without commentary. Okay. So this is why we're going to also look at the commentarial tradition of Tibet. Okay. To understand where people agree and where people disagree, or where people are um, wanting to I'll just give you an example. Okay. Master Dharmakirti says uh, that reality exists in a certain way. He will say that one way of looking at reality is by understanding that everything is made of smallest atoms, okay, partless atoms. But then later in his book, he'll say, he'll say that things are mind only. He will bring into uh, his books. Yeah, see, okay. He has four different ways of describing ultimate reality. Okay. And he doesn't explicitly say this in his book, but the Tibetan commentaries identify these things and they talk about them because Master Dharmakirti didn't say them outright. Okay. So we're going to understand where the Tibetan tradition explains things that the Indian texts and the Indian schools weren't saying explicitly. Okay. Now, why might Master Dharmakirti give four levels of reality? Obviously, because there are different understandings, right? So this is one of the reasons we're going to go into it in depth. And I promise next week I'll be better at speaking slowly and more fluidly. Just bear with me. So, when I say here, understand epistemology in Indian Buddhism, this is what I mean. Okay. So, we're going to understand the classical kind of birthplace of these ideas. Okay. Now, Juan has already described and defined pramana for us. Okay. So now what we're going to look at is pramana pala. Okay. Pramana pala means the result of a pramana. Okay. Pala means fruit. Okay. And also something I wanted to say is that um, we do not cover the Sanskrit as much as I think we could. So in this class and in this course, I'm going to go through the Sanskrit and the Tibetan. Okay. And we're going to learn some new vocabulary from both languages. Okay. Svalaksana. Svalaksana means rangsen. It's an actual object. Okay. And you guys will see this as we go through. I'm going to start moving through the slides a little quicker here because I think I'm getting too bogged down. So jnana means wisdom or an understanding. Okay. So we're going to recognize that wisdom is ultimately what brings us to liberation. Okay. And this is not just academic or intellectual kind of, wordplay. Okay. So now we're going to take and we're going to really start preparing ourselves to go deeply into what it means to have a direct perception and what it means to have an inference or an indirect perception. Okay. And we're going to do this over the next few classes. Okay. I've got this first course broken down into 12 classes. So over this first course, what we're really going to dive into is the two types of perception. Okay. So that's all to say that this was my first main slide. Okay. So in our tradition, you have to have knowledge. Okay. Knowledge is what starts the path. Okay. If you don't understand that you're suffering, and if you don't understand that your suffering can be stopped, okay, then you have four truths, right? Right? Understanding suffering first, right? You guys familiar? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this path is not started without knowledge. Okay. And when I say not ritual here, okay, I mean, it's not simply getting on your meditation cushion. Before you get on your meditation cushion, you have to understand why you're meditating, right? There has to be a pramana pala. There has to be a result of your knowledge. Okay. So anybody can get on their meditation cushion. I've heard many different people teach meditation around this country, and, you know, they're not teaching meditation that will really get you anywhere. Okay. So that's what I mean by it's not ritualistic. Okay. If you're going to do the Lama Chupa, right, it's helpful to understand why you're doing it and what goal you're trying to get to. So the central question here is, how do we know what we know? Okay. And what makes something correct? Okay? Juan could say that, you know, Juan can say that the Japanese restaurant is the best. I could say that the best restaurant is Italian, you know, but how can we decide who's correct there? Okay. And if I say that the pin is coming from its own side, and somebody else says that the pin is coming from my side, then how do we know who's correct there? Okay. These are all things we've heard. So, Dharmakirti said that pramana is something that's not deceptive. Okay. And essentially what we're going to study here is a map. We're going to get the Google Maps to liberation. Okay. So ignorance, right? And like I said, these are all things that you're going to be familiar with, but we need to understand once again what we're trying to do before we kind of move into deeper, more hard uh, topics. Okay. Um, so ignorance is mistaking the nature of reality, right? I think we can all say that. Like, and, you know, we're also mistaking changing things for being unchanging things, for impermanent things as being permanent, like your own body. If you understood truly that you're going to die one day, then I think you'd probably practice a little harder, you know? But because you don't truly believe that you're going to die or that you could die uh, at any moment, that hinders your ability to really practice. So I put forward to you that the other night, I was sitting on my deck and I almost started praying for some sort of disaster in my life because I found that the times when I get truly serious about my practice are times where I'm really, really struggling and times when I'm having a really, really hard time. And it's when things are going too good that I let up a little bit. And so I'm still trying to teach myself how to practice without suffering. But as it currently stands, I feel like I need it. Um, I need to be more aware of my suffering. I'm not saying that's right or appropriate for you, but I'm saying that if you understand the nature of reality, um, right, it should inform your ability to practice with heart, with true heart. Okay. Not just because, oh, Geshe Michael said, if I meditate every day, I'll eventually see emptiness. Okay. But in your heart, to get up and be happy and thankful and love your meditation cushion. Okay. Um, so pramana is the only reliable way that you can remove ignorance. Okay. Um, so everybody, we say there are two types of pramana, but I say there are actually four. Okay. Everybody heard of pratyaksha. Everybody's heard of ngunsum. These both mean direct perception. So it's a non-conceptual awareness. Okay. When I say particulars here, I'm not going to use that in the future. Okay. Particulars here mean actual objects. Okay. You have general things like the idea of a coffee cup, and then you have actual objects, which are expressions of those coffee cups. Okay. This is what I mean by particulars here. So direct perception is your sense awareness. Okay. the colors and shapes of your computer, okay? The sound of my voice, the feeling of the air condition, right? Or the warm air on your skin, okay? These are all things that are directly perceived. So I've got a question, and I'm not going to move on until somebody gives me an answer because I'm trying to wake you guys up here as much as I'm trying to wake myself up. Um, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Katrin. Yeah. So if I ask you a question, I say, is emptiness conceptual? Is emptiness an idea? Yeah. Okay. I see Ola saying yes, right? But if emptiness is a mental image, is an idea, is a concept, well, then how can you see it directly? Is it something you see with your eyes? When everybody says, I have to see emptiness directly, it's not something you can see with your eyes, is it? Okay, but it is something that you can experience directly. Okay. And once again, I put forward to you guys that there is a third type of perception. Can anybody tell me what that third type of perception is? There's something called yogi pratyaksha. It's yogic direct perception. Okay. This is what we're trying to get to. This is what we're trying to reach. This is the entire purpose of these classes moving forward. I feel like I'm waking up in a little bit now. So, how do we reach yogic direct perception? Right? Because if emptiness is conceptual and we have to see it directly, we have to experience it directly. The only way that we can is by generating some yogic direct perception of this object. Okay. So we have rangzens and we have tokpas. Okay. Remember, I said that sphalaksana is an actual object. It's a coffee cup or a pen, right? Something you can hold in your hand, something you can see. Okay. So when you think about these things, and we're going to talk about each one of these things. I'm going to take and we're going to spend a few classes just on the first one. Okay. We're going to spend a few classes just on the second one. Okay. So, I'm just kind of introducing you guys, and I'm hopefully giving you some reason to come back. Okay. So we're going to move through them kind of fast, but I'm going to speak slowly about it. um, okay. So actual objects are real things. Okay. And they come into existence and go out of existence in a moment. Okay. That's why I said here it's like a flash of light. Okay. Or a sound that goes away very quickly. Okay. Or a feeling. It's not just an idea, it's something that's actually going on and actually happening right now. Okay. So coffee cups are not ideas, right? And they're also changing from moment to moment. So when we have kalpana here means tokpa. Okay. These are like understandings. Okay. So tokpas are just, you could just say it's an understanding. Okay. And when you have, when your eye sees a coffee cup and you perceive its color and shape, your mind then goes through this process of understanding. Okay. And it begins to label things. And this is how you arrive at the idea that something is a coffee cup or isn't a coffee cup. Um, so perception lets us see or feel those things. like raw moments directly. Okay. Um, you could do a simple meditation where you watch the breath and you just try to align yourself with breathing and not thinking about, oh, I'm breathing, or there's a sound of a bird outside, but just relaxing into what it feels like to try to not label things. Okay. And this could be something you could try on your meditation cushion over this next week. Uh, so yeah, when you have understandings, these things are all taking place after your perceptions. Okay, so it's what you get like after you've labeled something or after you've put it into a certain category. Um, your your understanding or your idea of what you perceive is actually mistaken. Okay, they say that coffee cups in this school, actual things like coffee cups are ultimate reality. And the reason they say this is because your senses perceive them as they actually are. Okay. The senses, they say, cannot be mistaken about your perception of a coffee cup. However, your understanding or your idea of what you perceive is actually mistaken every time. Okay. This is revolutionary. Okay. If you understand this, you can begin to see why you can look at a coffee cup and not understand where it's coming from, right? So you're not perceiving the way the coffee cup, excuse me, you're not misperceiving the way the coffee cup exists, but you are misperceiving how it exists. Okay, and there's a distinction there. Okay, so like I was saying, our ideas about things aren't the same as the things themselves. Okay, that should is that is that clear, guys? Yeah, the way that you view reality, the way that you see and perceive reality is different from how you conceive it or think about what you are seeing. So if if how you think about what you are perceiving is mistaken, okay, then how can we rely on our thoughts to actually move us towards liberation, towards nirvana, towards Buddhahood? Okay. The coffee cup has a color and shape, right? Hold on. I mean, but like I'm used to teaching in a very conversational way. Okay. It's the way that I've taught for many years whenever people ask me to share things. So, if anybody out there is feeling brave and doesn't mind talking, I would ask you to, right? And if you have questions, interrupt me, please. Okay. I'm finding that it's going to be very helpful for us moving forward. Okay. If I say that the coffee cup, right, has different characteristics, like a rim, right, and a body for holding fluid, it's got colors and shapes, okay, and that what you are perceiving is accurate. It's unmistaken. But when I say that your mental image of what you are perceiving, that tokpa, is mistaken, is incorrect. Can anybody, do you guys understand why that may be troublesome? You have an idea of a coffee cup in your head, right? That idea of the coffee cup is not the coffee cup that you're holding in your hand. Okay. So your idea of the coffee cup is incorrect, but what your eye is seeing is correct. Now, the reason I'm asking you guys to stop me if you don't understand is because I spent the entire first part of this class saying that we have to rely on our ideas in order to get us closer to enlightenment. I was hoping somebody would catch this. I just contradicted myself, didn't I? I spent the entire first part of the class saying, in order to reach total enlightenment, you have to rely on knowledge. Okay? You have to rely on truth. But now I'm saying that your thoughts and your ideas are actually mistaken and incorrect. Okay? This is why I'm hoping you guys will stop and ask questions because this could be confusing. Okay. This tells me probably many of you guys are still asleep as well. Okay. So look, this is why I put here our ideas about things are not the same as the things themselves. Okay. So how is thinking through something, right? How can we trust it? Okay. That's one of the big questions here. Okay. And this is actually something, okay. I was telling you guys that there is a Tibetan tradition that comments upon Master Dharmakirti. Okay, you will find that within this tradition, Gyaltsab will actually disagree with Kajib, and Kajib will disagree with Gyaltsab. And this is something that I never thought happened. I thought that they just followed everything that Jetson Kappa said. Okay. However, you find that these two spiritual sons of Jetson Kappa disagree on a few things. Okay. And I'm putting forward to you that I have a very specific Gyaltsab J quote that addresses the question on your screen right now. Okay. This is something that we're going to get into. But these are all problems. Okay. These are all problems that we're going to encounter, right? These are all questions that we're going to have to ask ourselves as we move forward. So we have two truths, right? Anybody understand why I may have used this image back here? No? Okay. So yeah, Ola's got an idea. She's translating. So you know, they got these virtual reality goggles now, right? And you understand that when you put a virtual reality headset on, that the grass in front of you isn't real, right? The grass in front of you is deceptive, or the sky that you're looking at isn't a real sky. It's a deceptive sky, isn't it? It's been made to look real. Okay. So we have to start understanding that our perceptions of things, okay, don't exist the way that they look. Okay. In the same way that you put a virtual reality headset on and you see a bird, right? This bird doesn't exist the way that it looks in your headset, in your virtual reality. Okay. And I'm presenting to you right now that maybe that's one way we can think about these things is that we all have a certain virtual reality headset on. And that virtual reality is our eye, is our ear, is our nose. Okay. And just because it's made of skin and flesh and bone doesn't make it any different than a virtual reality goggle. Okay. Your senses are perceiving things and you're mistaking how they exist. Okay. So this is how we can start to look at ultimate truths and deceptive truths. Okay. And one of the way, yeah, slow down. Um, yeah. Thank you for the reminder. It doesn't bother me. Thank you so much. It's the only way I'm going to get better. So within our tradition, we have five schools. Two of those in the higher school belong to one school, right? And the way that you can actually break down each one of the schools is by how they define what it means to be ultimate and what it means to be deceptive. Okay. So within Master Dharmakirti's 7 books, he will actually lead you through the first 3 schools. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why we're going to have to closely look at deceptive and ultimate truth. Okay. So once again here, indirect perception or inference, right? It doesn't give us access to reality directly. If there's a fire on the other side of a mountain ridgeline and I can see the smoke, right? And so I know that there must be fire, but I'm not seeing the fire directly. Okay. That's what I mean. So if you want to see emptiness directly, there are other things that happen before that. Okay? And the only way that you will understand reality correctly is through using indirect perceptions like logic. Okay. Because you have to use logic to prove to yourself that things have a subtle impermanence to them. This is one of the, when you hear Geshe Michael describe what it's like to perceive emptiness directly, and he talks about seeing a pot on a stove, right? And then he realizes at a certain point that these colors and shapes are being overlaid with his mental image. And I've heard him say specifically that you watch a seed pop out of your mind. Okay. And I'm presenting to you that this may be what it means to perceive subtle impermanence directly. Okay. And he says that this realization usually happens a few hours before you see emptiness directly. Okay. This is also how the only way that we're going to reach yogic direct perception of emptiness. Okay. So, in closing, okay, we see how knowledge and the theory of knowledge, epistemology, okay, is what's going to lead us towards liberation. Okay. We have 2 types of perception, one being direct and one being indirect. So, and our inference is what clears up our ignorance until we perceive emptiness directly. Okay. So here are some words, and what I'll start doing from week to week is in the Telegram group, I'll drop this PPT in the Telegram group so you can access it whenever you want. Um, okay, let's see. Let's go back here. Are you guys just seeing my ugly face? Okay. Hmm. Okay, so I wanted to give you guys a reason to come back, right? These are all things that you have probably heard before, but I keep promising you that we're going to go deeper, right? Um, so Master Dharmakirti has four different ways of presenting ultimate reality. Okay? The first of those kind of like is the way that people view things every day. Okay. It is what most people think. Yeah. So that there's a permanent self to things. Yeah. Um, this this view of reality isn't just wrong. It's like it's completely wrong. Okay. Oh, we've got time. Um, okay, sorry. Well, I guess we'll cut it off. Um, yeah, I'm totally not feeling too well right now. So I apologize if once again I didn't present these things too well. Um, I promise I'll do everything I can to get a good night's rest next time. Um, and because I know it was probably a little boring today. Um, however, it is what it is. So, oh, okay. All right. So I just saw someone say in the chat that, um, let me see, hold on, it's not coming up, that they don't have access to Telegram. And I guess what I could do, and what we'll probably do next week, is I'll drop, oh, there's also a WhatsApp group. Okay, well, from now on, I can just put it here in the chat as well. Um, that way you guys can have the glossary and everything. So next week I'll drop the PowerPoint here in the chat and also in the WhatsApp group and the Telegram group for everyone. And next week, I think, one of the reasons I feel really bad sharing the same things that you guys have already heard before. So next week, I promise it's going to be a little bit more interesting, or at least I hope it will. Juan? Yeah. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my only thing, I'm about to create a WhatsApp group as
Yeah.
well because yeah, I know this situation specifically with some countries that no Telegram works there anymore. So I'll create a WhatsApp group, and there are other WhatsApp groups already working, like the Diamond Cutter Classics. Maybe there I can post the new QR link. And then just a reminder for next class, Adam, I think we have to tell everyone, and especially the translators, if people need to go, you should go because the official timing, we are supposed to stop 8:15. I mean, if people want and can stay, great. But also, I know some of you need to go, especially Ola was saying that she needs a flight. So
Yeah.
just let's try to stick to the timing. Or if we extend, just make it super optional, but not for translators. Okay. Thank you so much.
I did
See,
have a joke, Juan.
yes,
Before we started, you said time flies when you're having fun. And then I
it's
thought
true.
to myself, I was like, or if you're throwing clocks.
That's another way. Hopefully, both.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So see you next Friday. I'll open a new WhatsApp chat. All right. Thank you
Cool.
so much.
All right.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
there are the recordings. My apologies because the Russian, I don't know, I didn't pay attention, but it was on the Spanish channel. I'm gonna make sure next time it just says Russian. But we have the language, it just says Spanish. Okay. See you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Have a
Adam.
good
Thank you,
day.
translators.